clicking on this video. I really hope that you will subscribe, stick around, and become a part of the Langreg fam. So first and foremost, Happy New Year. I can't believe it is finally 2020. 2019 was I want to say eventful, but I don't think that's the right word, because most of the events were not very good. So let's use maybe emotional. I don't know. 2019 was kind of a crazy year, and now that things are so much different, I'm hoping that 2020 will be so much better. So Happy New Year. I wasn't sure if I wanted to continue filming YouTube videos. I've only made like 4, but my last one was 2 months ago, and then I kind of stopped because I was just in the last trimester of my pregnancy. I was tired, I was not having it, and I didn't really have anything to film, being that I'm hoping my channel will be about growing into the role of motherhood and stuff like that, and we didn't really have any exciting things going on at the end of my pregnancy after that last 3D ultrasound. So I didn't really film, and then as I was watching some of my favorite mommy YouTubers, I actually heard a few of them talk about how difficult it is to be a mom on the YouTube platform, and how some of them even kind of worded it as like they would regret it, just because you get judged for everything that you do. And being a new mom, I didn't know if I don't want to say it would have the thick skin for it, but I also don't know if it would be worth it to, you know, put us on here and document. But then I thought about it being the new year, and you know, why I created this channel in the first place, and that is to why I created the channel would be to document these moments of being a new mom, and you know, just have something that I can keep, you know, for years down the road. And one of my New Year's resolutions is to find something that I'm passionate about and to pursue it. I spend a lot of my time doing school, doing work, and just being super serious on an everyday basis, that I kind of want something that I could, you know, some kind of hobby. I'm not really artistic or creative or anything like that. I can't sing, I can't draw or anything like that. So I wanted something that I could put my time into that would be fun and rewarding. So I just decided that, you know, I'm just gonna go ahead and continue filming these videos, and yeah, so here we are. This video is actually going to be my labor and delivery story. So I see a lot of these videos on YouTube from mommy YouTubers, and I thought what a great way to start making videos again is to, you know, start with what happened to bring him here. He's currently sleeping. If you see, he's in the bassinet. We have the crib in the room, but we're kind of going through a little trial period. He hates the crib. We think that it's too hard, so he just prefers the bassinet. He sleeps in the bassinet. So last night I was over it, so I brought the bassinet from the living room into here, and that's where he is. So he might join us before the video is over, but at the end of the video I will introduce you. So let's start with the fact that I gained a bunch of weight. Okay, so that sounds kind of weird to start there, but we're gonna start there because it kind of prepares you for the mentality of the labor and delivery. So I'm gonna insert 2 pictures, one of a before and an after, well, a before and a last bump picture. I'm gonna insert those here, maybe right here. Okay, so you know, that was before and after. So through this whole pregnancy, you know, my doctor was concerned about my weight gain, you know, and we tried to do things to prevent it, and it didn't happen. I guess I was just, you know, one of those women who gain a whole bunch of weight during pregnancy. And, you know, from his size in the ultrasounds, we knew that he was going to be a very big baby, or so to speak. So at my 36-week appointment, when we got a measurement of him, she kind of was like, you know, he is a pretty big baby, so maybe you should start, you know, mentally prepare, you know, for the fact that I might have to have a C-section, just because she thought that he was like too big at that point. But she said, you know, we're gonna keep looking at it, and in 2 weeks we're gonna measure him again. So at my 37-week appointment, I had high blood pressure. It was, I think, so the top number was 140, I know that, but I think the bottom number was 80. I can't remember, and I couldn't find anything in my text messages or anything to verify that, but I think it was 80. But I had high blood pressure, and she checked me, and I was not dilated, but she said my cervix was soft, whatever that means. So, you know, she said that we're just going to keep an eye on the high blood pressure. I had to do a preeclampsia collection to just make sure that I didn't have that. And all of that checked out. I didn't have preeclampsia. I just had gestational high blood pressure. And then at my 38-week appointment, I went in and I was 1 centimeter dilated, but my blood pressure was 150/80. And so at that point, she was like, you know, I have to pull the plug. I can't let you go anymore. You know, that's just a little bit too high for my liking. How about, my appointment was in the morning. I think it was like 9:30 or something. And she was like, you know, go home, grab your bags, you know, do what you got to do, and come back after lunch. We want to induce you. And I was like, what? Oh my gosh. Okay. So, you know, I called my husband and called my mom and all that stuff. And we went home, and I got all my stuff together, and then we went back to the hospital at about 12-ish, around 12 or 1. At that point, she was like, okay, so at 4 o'clock, they were going to plan to induce me using this bulb thing. She actually got there earlier, so she inserted it at 2 o'clock. So what it is, it's like I'm gonna say a catheter, but you know, they stick it inside you and they blow up. It's like a balloon. And so like if this is your cervix, one part of the balloon goes on top and the other one goes in the middle, and it's supposed to put pressure on your cervix and cause it to dilate, which is, you know, so that's how they were gonna induce me. And I was gonna leave that in overnight to let my cervix open, and then they were gonna start the Pitocin the next morning at 5 a.m. So she put that in at 2, and I had that through the night. I didn't have any contractions or anything like that. I had some slight cramping, like period cramping, but I was pretty comfortable for the most part. It was kind of uncomfortable, like to lay, and the hospital bed's not very comfortable. So I was pretty comfortable for the most part through the night. And then at 5 a.m. the next morning, they came in, they took the, it's called a catheter, but I don't know what kind of catheter it's called. I'm just gonna call it like the induction catheter. I don't know. They took that thing out of me, and I was about 4.5 centimeters. I was about 4.5 centimeters dilated at that point. Well, she started the Pitocin, and then a little bit later, like maybe at 10 or 11, the doctor came in and checked me, and I was 4.5 centimeters dilated. So then at that point, she was like, you know, we know that he's gonna be a big baby. We know that you want an epidural, so let's just start prepping you for that. Just because, you know, if you want it, you can have it now. It doesn't matter. And I was so blown at this, because I thought that you had to be in like extreme amount of pain. You had to be to a certain amount of centimeters. You had to be something to have an epidural. And at that point, I wasn't feeling anything. I didn't have any pain, any like terrible discomfort. You know, I had some type of, you know, it's not comfortable being, you know, pregnant and about to give birth. But, you know, I was just so shook. But she was like, okay, so the next hour or so, because you have to have 1 bag of fluid before you can get your epidural, so that's like the prep of it. So I had my fluid, and then they came in to do the epidural. I was so scared, but it actually wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be. People say, you know, like an epidural is the worst thing in your whole life and it's just terrible, but I didn't think that it was that bad. If you think about it in a messed up way, or not a messed up way, but I don't know, it kind of felt like if someone was giving you a really rough massage right on your spine. You know, like if you get a massage and they get too close to your spine, you kind of get that pressure. That's what it felt like. It you know, it was uncomfortable, but I wasn't like in excruciating pain. But when they were doing the epidural, she kind of, at the end, the anesthesiologist, is that what they call it? She was like, there's a blood tinge. That's what she said. And I was like, I looked at the nurse, because the nurse was standing in front of me. Nobody was allowed in the room except for the anesthesiologist and the nurse. And the nurse was standing in front of me. So I was sitting on the bed like this with my legs hanging over, and I was hugging a pillow, and then she was standing in front of me holding my hands. And I like looked at her and I was like, is that bad? She was like, oh no, it just means like she probably like, you know, she might be close to a vein or yada yada. I was like, okay. And so then my legs started to get numb. Not numb, let's say tingly, because they weren't, you'll find out later, but they weren't like numb. They were just tingly, like if my whole entire legs fell asleep. And so she did that, and then my legs fell asleep. And then, you know, they put me back in the bed, and then when you get an epidural, you have to get a catheter for, you know, your pee, because you can't get up and walk. So they inserted the catheter, and, you know, put me back in bed. And then maybe like an hour or so later, the doctor came back in and checked me, and she was like, she's like, okay. She checked me and she's like, you're 6 centimeters dilated. And I was kind of like, oh, because it's not comfortable. If you have ever had a baby, or yeah, if you've ever had a baby, I don't know why else you would get checked, but if you've ever had a baby, you know that getting checked is not comfortable at all. So, you know, I was kind of like cringing and like, oh, because they get deep. Okay. So, I was kind of cringing, and she was like, you can feel that? The doctor was like, you can feel that? And I was like, yeah, because mind you, at this point, I've already had my epidural. So I'm not supposed to feel anything except for the fact that she's down there. And I was like, yeah. And then she was like, huh, odd. But went ahead and broke my water anyway. And when she broke my water, I have my little notes right here, which is what I was looking at. Which is another reason why I'm happy to be doing this video, because, you know, I'm only 3 weeks postpartum, and I had to, you know, kind of think about the events that happened. So years down the road, there's no way that I would remember this. Anyway, so she broke my water, and then after that, the game changed, okay? I hadn't felt any pain at this point, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is great, like, you know, easy peasy. But she broke my water, and then it got painful, okay? I felt every contraction for the next, I don't know, probably the next hour or so. And they were bad, and they were close together. And I was in so much pain, and I told, you know, the nurse had, you know, they keep coming in and checking on you, and she saw how much pain I was in, and she was like, let me do this little test on you, because you're not supposed to be in any pain. You're supposed to, you know, you can feel a little bit, you know, discomfort, you can feel a little bit of like crampiness, but you are in like a lot of pain, so let me check. So she took this little, it looked like a broken, like she just broke like a popsicle stick or something. She's like, can you feel this? And she's like going up, you know, my legs, and I was like, yep, I could feel everything. And she was like, I don't think that your epidural worked. Let me call the anesthesiologist. And I was like, okay, yeah, please do. Call the anesthesiologist, because I was hurting, okay? And so she came in and checked, and like what they check is like they sit you up and they like check the little thing that's in your back. Look at Cam. They checked the little thing in your back by like pulling out some fluid, and the entire syringe was just blood. So she was like, yeah, so don't panic, but I think that she accidentally punctured your vein. Like there's a vein in your back, or I guess there's a bunch of veins in your back that are close to the epidural space. And she's like, yeah, I think she punctured your vein, so the epidural didn't work. And so I was like, does that mean we have to do another one? Even though it wasn't that bad, it's just scary to think that like you have to redo that again. And so she was like, yeah, we'll probably have to redo it. I was like, okay. So she came, a different doctor came in. Oh, let me rewind real quick. Before the other anesthesiologist left, she was like, she was very spunky, and she was like, woo woo, best anesthesiologist award goes to me. I've been doing it for 17 years, yada yada. And she was like, don't forget to mention that I'm the best. Okay? And I was like, haha, yeah, you're great. Because at that time I was like, you know, this is probably what it's supposed to feel like, you know, whatever. And in my head I was thinking, this girl was so like confident and spunky and like, you know, like, I got it, and it didn't even work. She punctured my vein in my back. I was not amused. Anyway, okay, so this new anesthesiologist comes in and does the whole procedure all over again, and checks checks it again, and she was like, I'm still getting blood in the vein, or blood in the vein. I'm still getting blood in the syringe. I don't know if it's leftover from the old one or if it's still new. She's like, I just don't want to have to come back again. So, you know, yeah, we just did it, but we have to, let's do it a third time. We're going to do it up higher. I was like, a third time? And she was like, yeah. She was like, you shouldn't feel much though, because you're still numb. And I was like, oh, it's okay. And so then they had to do it 3 times, and they did it like if this is my back, they did it like up higher in like my mid back. And then that time worked. So I ended up getting 3 epidurals, 2 that didn't work and 1 that did. And that last one, you know, I was good. I didn't feel anything. The one before, like I could still like move my leg. I was like, I feel like I could get up and walk. This one, I couldn't feel anything. So she's pretty much, so I was 6 the last time she checked me, and she was like, you know, we're gonna check you here in a little bit, and if you don't progress any, then we are gonna just go ahead and move forward with the C-section, because that probably means that he's not coming down because he's too big, and you know, stuff like that. She was like, so I'm gonna come back in and check you in a little bit. And I was like, okay. So we were just hanging out, and we had a lot of people in the room just hanging out. It was my mom, Donna, my 2 sisters, Josh's sister, my grandma, and Josh's mom. So it was all of us just hanging out at this point. And you know, they had all pretty much been there for the whole time, but you know, this was kind of getting down to the wire and stuff like that. And then I started feeling like this burning pain, and at the time I thought that it was maybe the catheter that they put in for your urine that I was mentioning. I thought that, you know, maybe I was feeling that burning, and because you really don't know what you're feeling, you just kind of feel like something down there is like not really right. Excuse me. Something down there is not really right. And so I, you know, when the nurse came back in, I told the nurse, I was like, well, let's rewind a little bit. It had probably been since I got my, the other epidural, and at this point, it had probably been about 2 or 3 hours and so we were just hanging out and I couldn't feel anything and tried to nap. So maybe it had been like 2, 3, maybe even 4 hours. I'm not sure the exact time, but I started to feel this this burning, and I was like, I think that it's the, you know, the catheter. And so she checked it and she was like, no, it looks fine. And then we noticed that it was every single time a contraction would come, I would feel this burning. And she was like, oh, you know, it's probably the ring of fire. You know, when the baby starts to come down, every contraction, when his head is on your cervix, you know, you can feel this burning sensation. Sometimes it's called the ring of fire. I was like, oh, okay. So I just, you know, felt that for a little while, and that was pretty uncomfortable just because I could feel it burning. And then I was like, well, is my epidural wearing off? Like, why can I feel this? Like, it's not comfortable. But she was like, no, when they get low, she's like, but that's a good sign. You know, that means we're moving forward to possibly having a vaginal delivery, and you don't have to have a C-section. Well, you know, the doctor will assess you and see in a little bit, but you know, this is all good signs. So I know it's uncomfortable, but it's a good sign. So I was like, oh, okay. And so she had just left the room after she like checked everything, and she's like, you know, it's probably just the ring of fire. She had left the room, and maybe like 2 minutes later, I was like, Josh was standing on this side, and I was like, babe, I feel like I am about to go to the bathroom on like right here, like right now. I can't hold it. Like, I don't know what to do because I feel like I am about to poop right here, right now. And he was like, no, like, you can't feel anything. Remember, like, don't be drama. Like, you know, you don't have to go to the bathroom. And I was like, but I do. And I was starting to get overwhelmed. And with all of the people in the room, I didn't, you know how to, you know, I don't want to say know how to act, because I could act however I wanted, I suppose, but I just didn't. I was like, you know, whatever. And then his sister was like, do you want us to leave the room for a little while? And I was like, yeah, that would actually be kind of nice, you know, just so me and Josh could have a time. I guess she could tell that I was getting overwhelmed. So I was like, yeah, that would be nice. But I was like, but can somebody go get the nurse and tell her that I'm about to go to the bathroom right here, right now? And so then I think my sister was the one who went and got the nurse. And you know, she came back in. I was like, I'm so sorry. I know you just left like a minute or two ago, but like, I really feel like I'm about to go to the bathroom on this table. And what do I do? Like, is that actually a thing? Like, am I gonna go to the bathroom right here, or what? And she was like, well, let me check you. And at this point, before, the doctor had been the one who was checking me this whole time. Sorry. I like my cup. It says, I'm a new mom. I thought it was appropriate for this video, but coffee's life. Okay. So, the doctor had been the one checking me up until this point, and she was like, well, let me check you real quick and just see, because you know, the doctor's not going to come in for another 30 minutes or so to check you, so let's just see what's going on. So she checked me, and she was like, you're a 9.5. Let me go tell the doctor. And so then the doctor came in, and you know, like maybe 15 to 20 minutes later, and rechecked me, and she was like, yep, you're a 10, you can start pushing soon. She was like, we can try and you know, if you want, we can, you know, try and have this baby, you know, you're 10 centimeters dilated, you know, we can see what happens, and you can try and do some practice pushing and see if, you know, he comes down and stuff like that. And I was like, okay. So Josh and my mom were in the room when I, you know, gave birth, and so Josh was on one side, my mom was on the other side, and so the nurse was like, oh, they got the room already. And then the nurse was like, okay, this is how you push. And she said, you know, she showed me, demonstrated how to push. And I was like, okay, let's do it. Let's just do it. Let's get it going. So she was like, okay, you know, on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. And so then I went to go push, and she was like, oh, I see the head. And I was like, okay. And you know, this part was like the most nerve-wracking, and I was just so determined to like get him out pretty much. She was like, yeah, we have a mirror, do you want to see? And I was like, yeah, sure. So they put the mirror in front of me, and I was like, I don't think that I want to watch. I changed my mind. So I watched for like a second, and I told my mom, I was like, okay, can you go turn it around, because I don't want to see that. I'm good. And so, and then, so I pushed again, and then she was like, yeah, the heads are here, you want to feel? And so I reached down and felt, and that was weird. I don't know if that's supposed to be like magical or like cool, but I was like, oh, ew. Okay. So then she was like, let me go get the doctor because he's about to be out. So she went and got the doctor, and then yeah, a few more pushes and he was out, and I ended up only pushing for about 20 minutes, and then yeah, and then after that, we got like cleaned up and everything, and then when I could start to feel my legs a little bit, probably about maybe like an hour or two after that. So he was born at 8:23 p.m. So maybe like an hour or two after that, they had me get up, walk, go to the bathroom, and then when I was able to do that, they moved us up to like the new mom and baby recovery unit or whatever, and there is where we were able to just, you know, sleep and recover. And that was the first night. And then the second night, you had to stay for 2 nights. So that was the first night, and that night was kind of scary. I don't know, he would like throw up, and like he was like choking on his like spit up, and so I called the nurse real quick. I was like, what do I do? And so she like taught me how to use that like blue suction thing. So that was interesting. And then so that was the first night, and then the second day we woke up, and we got to have some breakfast, and then you know, just relax a little bit. And then all of our family, we didn't tell anybody that that I was having the baby, just because we just wanted it to be a family thing. So the only person who came that was not family was actually one of my best friends from college. Her name is Chris. Hey Chris, if you're watching this. And I told her because I did want her there. So she came down from North Carolina and hung out with us for a little bit. So that was really nice. But other than that, it was just family who came. And I mean, if you think about it, combined, Josh and I do have a lot of family. So there were a lot of people there, kind of. But, you know, with his dad's side, his mom's side, and then my mom and my family. And so we hung out with all of them, and then pretty much everyone left and died down, and then we were just kind of getting a hang of the breastfeeding thing, and you know, trying to get some sleep when we could. And then in the nighttime, since the next morning, so I had him on Friday, that was the first night, and then this was all day Saturday, and Saturday night was the second night, and we were planned to leave Sunday, or the next day on Sunday at noon. So during this night, I guess is when they did it all. They did all of the tests that they needed to do and that we had requested. So like they had to do a PECU test. I don't know. They did some heel test. They did a DNA test. They did like a bilirubin test for his jaundice, and they did something else, and then they also gave him a bath, and this was like in the middle of the night. This was probably around like 12 to 2, and so we were actually able to, you know, they took him for that time, so we were able to sleep, and then they brought him back, and then so we had all of those tests done that needed to be done that night, and so that way the next morning we got our discharge papers. We got instructions on how to file the birth certificate and stuff like that, and you know, discharge instructions for myself, discharge instructions for him, and just things that we needed to do, which was pretty much all Sunday, since all of the important tests and lab work and stuff was done on Saturday night. And so, yeah, so Sunday we got discharged, and at around 12, actually it was like 12 on the dot, like they prepped us all morning, and then we were walking out at like 11:59, 12, and then we got back to the house, and yeah, that is my labor and delivery story. So now I'm going to go ahead and get him up. He's like kind of a little bit fussy, not really. He doesn't really cry. He just like grunts and stuff like that. But he is kind of waking up, so I can feed him after this. So I'm gonna go ahead and get him so I can introduce you. So I'll be right back. Alrighty. Got some Urkel pants going on. Okay. So this is him's. Okay. So. Okay, this is him. He was 8 pounds, 8 ounces when he was born at 8:23 p.m. And yeah, I don't want to say too much about him because, like I said, I'm going to continue making videos, and so my next video that I'm planning on doing is, I don't think he likes to sit like this. My next video that I plan on filming is his 1 month. So next Tuesday we go in for his 1 month checkup, and so I think that next week I'm gonna go ahead and film a 1 month update just on, you know, like breastfeeding, his jaundice. It is going away, if you can kind of tell. If you can tell, it is going away, but he did have, you know, jaundice, and we had to take care of that. Talk about, you know, breastfeeding and sleeping, and just, you know, the things that we've experienced this first month. And yeah, and then I think that the video after that is going to be my 6-week postpartum update, because I have that appointment that following week. So he likes this position, but his head, he gets a little confident, I guess. But yeah, so those are the next two videos I think that I'm gonna go ahead and film. He's okay. But yeah. So again, thank you so much for watching this video, and please go ahead and subscribe, like if you want to become a part of the fam. Aren't they so cute? Say bye. Say bye.